Welcome to Bedcrime Stories Podcast. I'm your host, T. And if true crime is your jam, and like me, you enjoy delving into unsolved cases, trying to figure out who done it, please consider subscribing. Also, do me a favor and hit that like button. Today, I want to continue with part 3 of the Bombshells heard in Justice for All's 5-hour interview with Jose Roman. Before we get started, a reminder. We haven't fully vetted this Jose person in terms of seeing him speak on camera or being shown documents proving his identity. Justice for All says it's Jose, and it sounds like it is, but we have to remain cautious, and we have to remember that everything Jose says is allegedly. A few things I've noticed. As I've listened to the interview, it sounds like Jose is outside while he's talking. You can hear the wind in the background, and you can also hear him going into stores and asking about cigarette brands and tobacco. There are a lot of distractions and long pauses during the interview, and that's part of the reason it's 5 hours and 13 minutes long. I've tried to cut out all that excess so we can get straight to the bombshells and the important information. One thing that struck me is how much this Jose was able to say about Summer when the host, Justin, asked him to describe her. Remember, Jose said he was only at 110 Ben Hill Road for 6 months, starting in February or March of 2020 and going through the fall. It's surprising that Jose was able to offer a much more detailed portrait of Summer than her own parents combined, don't you think? Jose gave life to the still images we've seen of this child. Why weren't Candus and Don able to describe their own child with more than a few sentences when Jose freely offered up sentence after sentence about Summer? Is it because of long-term alcohol and drug abuse? Does that explain their limited ability to talk about their daughter Summer? In an article I found on the National Institute of Health entitled What Happened? Alcohol, Memory Blackouts, and the Brain by Dr. Aaron M. Wyatt, the author writes this: if recreational drugs were tools, alcohol would be a sledgehammer. Few cognitive functions or behaviors escape the impact of alcohol, a fact that has long been recognized in the literature. As Fleming stated nearly 70 years ago, the striking and inescapable impression one gets from a review of acute alcoholic intoxication is of the almost infinite diversity of symptoms that may ensue from the action of this single toxic agent. In addition to impairing balance, motor coordination, decision-making, and a litany of other functions, alcohol produces detectable memory impairments beginning after just 1 or 2 drinks. As the dose increases, so does the magnitude of the memory impairments. Under certain circumstances, alcohol can disrupt or completely block the ability to form memories for events that transpire while a person is intoxicated, a type of impairment known as a blackout. End quote. This may explain why Summer's parents appear to be at a loss when asked to talk about her. Now, for the rest of my discussion today, I'm going to switch to a different way of delivering the information. I'm going to state the question Jose was asked, or give you a topic that he was asked to discuss, and then I'll tell you what Jose said. I understand that some of you are having trouble hearing or understanding the recordings that I've shared of Jose talking, and I found them difficult too at times, so I'm hoping this format will help. Please let me know in the comments. Why did Jose's friends leave Rogersville when they first arrived in Tennessee, and why did he stay behind? Jose said that when the house they were planning to stay in fell through, all the others had to leave because they didn't have another place to stay. And apparently there were no hotel rooms available in the town or anywhere nearby because of some car race that was going on. The friends apparently did not have enough money to rent rooms or find another place either, so they left and Jose stayed. Jose said he arrived at Chateau Wells at 5:30 p.m. on the first day he stayed there, and while he was there, he met both Allie and Candus. H's father, Andrew Hiltz, is saying on his YouTube channel that Jose slept with Candus. When Jose heard this, he became angry, denied it, and told H's father that he needs to stop telling lies. He should get on a plane and get to Tennessee and confront Candus about exposing his son to alcohol, vaping, and whatever physical relations they may have had. Jose also pointed out that H was only 14 years old at the time Candus allegedly had physical relations with him. Now, think of yourself at that age. How young and impressionable we are at 14 or 15. We're in between childhood and adulthood, trying to be cool, trying to fit in, wanting to test the waters, feeling the first pangs of sexuality, dealing with confusing hormonal changes. H was a vulnerable kid from what I can tell. His dad wasn't in the picture on a daily basis. He gets introduced to Candus and Don through his mother. He was a sitting duck in some ways. Again, if all of this sordid tale is true. Jose talked about H at length and asked the public not to judge him, sort of not to tar and feather him, because he's a collateral victim of the case, and I have to agree. Jose said that H is currently having a mental breakdown. Now, I don't know if that's true, so I don't want to talk too much about that. And then Justin said that it's rumored that H hasn't been the same since Summer disappeared. And that makes me think of what Allie told Chris McDonough of the interview room about how when H returned home from the fishing trip on June 15th, he went straight to his room and he didn't want to talk about how the day went. That detail has always bothered me. It leads me to believe that H experienced something disturbing that day. Moving on. Where did Summer sleep? Take a listen to what Jose said about that.
Basically, as her bed, it would be on the first room when you first walked into the home, and it would be on the mattress on the floor. You know, there's no bed frame, no box spring, no sheets on the bed. It would just be her on her bed with her favorite book.
So if you didn't hear that, he said Summer slept on a mattress on the floor. There were no bed sheets. There was no frame. She slept directly on the mattress with her favorite blanket. Jose said that the boys' mattresses were even worse than Summer's. Take a listen.
Really? Their beds was worse? Oh, yeah, a lot worse. Wow. Very worse. When I first went into the room, I literally wrapped their mattress in plastic garbage bags. I literally took scissors, split them in half, wrapped the bed around, and then taped it on the bottom, and then I put bed sheets over it. Oh. Because it was that bad, you know?
That's nice.
Oh, yeah. It was really bad, you know?
So what Jose said there was that he wrapped the mattress in garbage bags that he taped together because it was so dirty. He didn't want to sleep on it without plastic all around it. And then he put his bed linens over that. Next question. What were the two Wells boys who were on the property at the time like? Here's what Jose says.
I even started to get the boys like heaven and all in addition to the housework, helping them with their homework, and you being consistent with them on helping them with their homework. Before I knew it, it was automatic to them. Like they enjoyed to walking through the door, and while they were walking through the door, I would be there at the stove cooking them something. You know, they knew when they came through that door, Jose was at the stove making them something. Let's do our homework while he's cooking. You know, and they would be happy. They would do their homework, finish it. If they got stuck, they would ask me for help. I would help actually enjoy doing it. Like I said, I like to cook. That's one of my favorite things to do. And nothing gives me more pleasure than to see a child smile and eyes glistening when you're cooking something that they enjoy the most, you know?
So it sounds like Wyatt and Waylon really enjoyed having Jose there. He'd be at the stove cooking when they would come home from school. They would do their homework. They started doing chores. He kind of mentored them and guided them, and they seemed to thrive with his attention. Did Summer ever spend time with adults other than Don and Candus? So Jose said no, except for Allie. Apparently Summer was left in Allie's care from time to time, and Jose said Allie really took good care of her, so much so that Summer wanted to stay at Auntie Allie's house rather than return home. Did Candus ever leave Summer in the car to sleep? Jose says no, and Summer was never left alone in the car if Candus had to go into a store. Someone was always with her, and that was usually Grandus. Then they asked Jose if he'd ever met Billy. In case you don't know who Billy is, Billy was brought up by Allie and H in their interviews with Chris McDonough. They suddenly brought this man up, saying that he was an old drunk who, A, would stay in a shed on the Wells property whenever his wife kicked him out of the house for the night, and B, that Billy had the hots for Grandus. My feeling was that Allie and H brought Billy up in the interviews in an attempt to make the Wells property look like Crazy Town Central, where all sorts of questionable characters would come to stay. Jose said he thought Billy was a gray-haired man who wanted to rent space on the property for a trailer. And when he said that, that kind of confused me because I thought that Don Sherfy was the one who wanted to put a trailer on the Wells property. So I'm not sure that we can trust in Jose's version or recollection of this Billy person. Where might Don and Candus hide Summer? So when Jose was asked this, he said that the property is huge and there are plenty of places where you could bury someone. On this one, I have to say Jose doesn't know about all the searches that have taken place on those 11 acres and the different types of search dogs that were let loose there. Dave Radar of EquiSearch said that the area was thoroughly covered in a grid pattern search. Then Justin's co-host, ICU, said that Candus described getting in her car on June 15th and driving as far as she could and going to the church at the end of the road. Personally, at this point, I think that there's no way that Summer's on the property. The property has been turned upside down by now. And in my opinion, I think Don is smart enough to know that a body would need to be hidden away somewhere off the property. And that's my opinion. That's not Jose there talking. How did the boys treat Summer? Jose said the boys were always picking on Summer, but that her comfort was Wyatt. He said that Summer would cuddle with Wyatt in the evenings. And we've heard from Allie, too, that the boys tended, or actually I think it was H, that the boys picked on Summer a lot. The swing. Jose talked about Summer's swing. He said that the way it was hung from the tree, Summer couldn't have swung too high on it. He said that Summer preferred sort of being wound up on the swing and then let loose to twirl open. So this, at least for me, makes it sound like an accident with the swing is probably off the table. The sheds. Jose said one of the sheds on the property has a basement. Now, I find that surprising. Who knew that there was a shed there large enough or substantial enough to have a basement? He also stated that the boys' mini bikes were stored in the other shed. The driveway. Jose said even for Summer to walk up the hill would take at least 5 minutes, and for an adult it would take much longer. He said it's not an easy climb, and even to get up the driveway you need a truck with 4-wheel drive. So the property does not lend itself to a stranger abduction scenario. How the Wells heat the house. Jose said that they have a wood-burning stove in the cellar and that Don actually drilled holes into the upstairs floor to allow the heat from that to rise up. Summer wandering off. Jose talked again about Summer wandering off and having to be searched for. When he was talking about this, it reminded me of what H said in his interview with Chris McDonough. There, H said, Candus was always calling him and Allie, saying that she couldn't find the kids, thinking that she'd lost them. So now I tend to believe Jose and H as opposed to Don and Candus. Summer did apparently wander around the woods by herself, even though she'd been warned about the copperhead snake, the coyotes, the bears, and all the other dangers. Jose said they were always concerned that Summer could be bit by that copperhead snake, and if she was, she would die before they could get her to the nearest hospital. That makes me wonder now about a snake bite. It's yet another type of possible accident that could have occurred on the property. Don, drugs and alcohol, and could the children get their hands on drugs and alcohol at Chateau Wells? Jose said that Don admitted to him that his drugs of choice were meth and cocaine, but cocaine was his favorite. Jose said that the only time he witnessed Don being really strung out on something heavy was the time Candus had to go to the drug house to get Don and bring him back home. Jose stated you could tell Don was on something very hard at that time. He also said that the alcohol in the house was definitely within reach of the children. He described Summer having to move the black velvet whiskey bottle to get to the Mountain Dew. Justin also mentioned that he believes, and I would have to agree, that Don was a working alcoholic, someone who's able to get loaded every evening but can still get up for work. And here's bombshell number 12. It was also stated that Don would typically go to work at 8 a.m. and return home between 4:30 p.m. and 5 p.m. That's a bombshell because that falls right into the missing hours on June 15th of 2021, the hours right before Summer was reported missing. If that's true, then dear old Don was almost certainly home during the period when Summer vanished. One other little tidbit that I want to throw in here. I heard today on another channel that the neighbor, Jody Sue, the one neighbor in the Beach Creek area who's been willing to speak on camera about what she knows and what she thinks about the case, the same Jody Sue who said she heard a scream the afternoon Summer went missing, she said that the 911 calls reporting Summer missing came in at 6:21 p.m. and 6:23 p.m. So those would be Don and Candus's 911 calls. I find that interesting because even though Candus said she called 911, the only recordings I've heard of 911 calls were from the one Don Wells made. What did Candus say about her missing sister, Rose? And this is bombshell number 13. Jose confirmed what Allie told Chris McDonough, that Candus allegedly told both him and Allie one night when they were drinking that she killed her sister, Rose. Now on this one, I urge major caution. Candus was said to have not been in Wisconsin when Rose disappeared. And Candus was most likely hammered when she made this statement to Allie and Jose. We should not rush to judgment on this one. Let's leave it to the investigators in Wisconsin. And recently, Chris McDonough said that he believes an announcement will be made soon regarding Rose Bly's case. Was peppermint really Summer's favorite candy? Jose says yes, and in particular, she loved the large, round peppermint balls. He said one time Summer choked on one, so they started smashing the balls up before giving them to Summer. Jose said that Grandus kept a bowl of peppermints above a safe in the trailer, and they were always there. Did Summer like cacti? Jose says yes, she did. When asked if Candus had a child after Summer, Jose said no. Now on this one, I'm not sure how Jose could possibly know that for certain, so I would take that one with a grain of salt. When he was asked why he went off the grid for 3 years, Jose hinted that he was at the point of being ready to sort of do himself in, if you know what I mean, and he needed to separate from everything to get himself together, to get his head together. When asked if Candus and Don will rat on each other, Jose said he believes Don will be the one to do this, and he said that Don will likely find a way to make himself the victim of something Candus did. But then he also said that if the situation is right, Candus might rat out Donnie. Then Jose said he hopes Chris is watching the interview, and I think when he said that, he was referring to Chris McDonough, and he's saying that he wants to be interviewed by him. Justin then told Jose that he's working on it. Personally, I would like to see the behavior panel guys interview Jose to get a feel for whether they think he's telling the truth or not. So I'm going to end this now. That completes the 5-hour, 13-minute interview. I think I got most of the big things that were discussed covered in the 3 videos I've done on it, and I have to say I'm really glad that I'm over with it because it took forever listening to the whole thing and trying to chop out the parts that really aren't pertinent or relevant to the case. So I hope that that's given you a lot of information and that it's helped you. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Until the next time, on Bed Crime Stories.